72 million. That's the number that has been stuck in my head all morning. I was going through the research for this deep dive, and I just kept coming back to it. 72 million records.
It's a staggering number. It's almost hard to visualize. I mean, to put that in perspective for you, that's roughly the entire population of the UK.
Yeah.
Plus a few million tourists all having their digital pockets picked at the same time.
That is a terrifying image, and we're talking about Under Armour here, the fitness giant, the brand that's probably, in the gym bag of half the people listening right now.
Oh, for sure.
But what struck me wasn't just the sheer scale of this, it was the confusion. The headlines are all screaming January 2026, but the actual crime, that happened way back in 2025.
And that gap, that's the first loose thread we really need to pull on. It's what makes this case so messy and frankly so dangerous. The breach, the actual break-in, was November 2025.
Okay.
But the data didn't get dumped publicly until January 2026.
So do the math on that. That's a 2-month silence.
Exactly. For 2 months, 72 million people were just walking around, buying holiday gifts, traveling, living their lives with no idea their personal data was on a hacker's hard drive.
That is just unsettling.
What?
So our mission today is to bridge that gap. We're not just going to look at what was stolen, though we will because there's some really conflicting stories there.
Right.
We need to figure out how it happened because I read some technical analysis from Century Bay in our stack that honestly, it terrified me. It involves AI and it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It really does. The technical evolution here is probably the most significant part of this whole story for the industry. The how is almost more important than the what.
Okay, so let's get into it. We've got reports from Have I Been Pwned, legal filings, tech analysis. When you first saw the scope of this, specifically the data dump size, around 340 gigs, what went through your mind?
My immediate reaction was that this isn't a standard, smash and grab. We're looking at a very specific, evolved type of cybercrime. The data dump is huge, about 340 gigabytes.
Which is massive for text data.
Exactly. For anyone listening, text is tiny. A novel is maybe a couple of megabytes. To get to 340 gigabytes of text, you need a staggering amount of information.
So it's not just a list of emails.
No, not at all. If it were just emails, it'd be a fraction of that. That volume suggests depth. It suggests we're looking at detailed profiles of millions of people's lives.
And the people behind it. This group called Everest. I have to say, it sounds like an outdoor apparel brand, which is ironic, but I'm guessing they're a bit less wholesome.
Significantly less.
Yeah.
Everest is a ransomware group. They're part of the Blackbyte family, which in the cyber underworld is a pedigree you really don't want to mess with. They are a professional enterprise.
And they've moved beyond simple ransomware, right, into what you call double-extortion.
Exactly.
I want to pin that term down because it sounds like a bad action movie sequel, double-extortion. How is that different from what we were hearing about 5 years ago?
So the old school model was simple. I break into your system, I lock everything up with encryption, and I say, pay me or you can't get back in.
Simple.
Brutal.
Right. But companies got smart. They started keeping better backups. So if a hacker locked the doors, the company would just say, fine, we have a spare key, restore from a backup, and ignore the ransom.
It kind of neutralized the attack.
It did. So the hackers evolved. Now, step one is steal everything. They pull all the data out before they lock the computers. So the threat isn't just pay us to get your systems back. It's pay us or we post your customers' private lives on the dark web for everyone to see.
So even if Under Armour has the best backups in the world, they still have this gun to their head.
Precisely. It shifts the pressure from operational recovery to reputation and legal liability. And Everest is aggressive. They put a literal countdown timer on their leak site. 7 days. TikTok.
Talk about psychological warfare. And I saw they demanded payment in Monero, not Bitcoin. Why Monero?
Monero is the currency of choice if you want to stay dark. Bitcoin, it's actually terrible for crime. It's a public ledger. If you pay me in Bitcoin, the FBI can watch that money move from wallet to wallet. So it's like paying with a check. There's a paper trail.
In a way, yeah. Monero is different. It uses some pretty advanced cryptography, things like ring signatures and stealth addresses, to basically scramble the transaction. And it makes it almost impossible to trace.
It's the difference between a wire transfer and a briefcase of unmarked bills.
That's the perfect analogy. And Everest demanding it tells us they are professionals who fully intend to get away with this.
Okay, so we've got a sophisticated crew, a massive pile of data. Let's drill into that data itself, because this is where the story gets into that he said, she said situation.
It is a classic standoff. Let's start with the verified facts.
Yeah.
Have I Been Pwned, which is the gold standard here, confirmed 72.7 million unique email addresses.
Right.
And also names, dates of birth, genders, and geographic locations, like ZIP codes.
And purchase histories, which on the surface, I think a lot of people might shrug at. You know, okay, the internet knows I bought neon yellow running shorts. Is that really a disaster?
In isolation? No, it's maybe just embarrassing. But data doesn't exist in a vacuum. You combine that with a home address, date of birth, and email, you're building a full identity kit. But here's where it gets darker. The report from Century Bay suggests the sample data might include phone numbers and potentially passport information.
Passport information? Wait, why would a sportswear company have my passport info?
That is the big question. Usually that's collected for very specific reasons. Maybe international shipping. Or maybe this data set includes things like employee travel bookings or ID for high-level partners.
That would make sense. So it might not be the average customer, but if passport data is mixed in there anywhere, the risk level just changes completely.
It skyrockets. You go from nuisance marketing to high-level identity theft.
And yet we have this statement from Under Armour. TechCrunch reported a spokesperson said there's no evidence that sensitive personal information of tens of millions was compromised.
You have to parse that language like a lawyer. No evidence is very different from it did not happen. It means we haven't found the smoking gun in our logs yet. And the claim that it didn't affect UA.com or payment systems is probably technically true, but functionally false.
How can it be true if 340 gigabytes of data walked out the door? That had to come from somewhere.
Because of where it was stolen from.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the scariest part of the research, the Century Bay analysis. They propose a theory about screen-based attacks.
This was the part of the notes that actually made me sit up straight. We think of hacking as, you know, cracking a password, but this is different.
Completely different. Under Armour says their database wasn't breached. And they are probably right. The vault was likely secure. The Century Bay analysis suggests the hackers didn't attack the vault. They attacked the employee looking at the vault.
Okay, walk me through this. How does that work? A screen-based attack.
So imagine you're a customer support agent. You pull up a customer's file to help with an order. On your screen, you see their name, their address, order history.
Right, just doing my job.
Now imagine there's a piece of malware on your computer. It's not trying to get into the database. It's just watching your screen. It uses AI-powered optical character recognition, or OCR.
Wait, OCR, like the tech that scans PDFs and makes them searchable?
Exactly that. The weaponize and supercharge with AI. As fast as you pull up a record, the malware reads the pixels. It sees the image of name, John Doe, and it instantly converts that picture back into actual data and streams it to the hacker.
So it's like an invisible spy standing over your shoulder, speed reading everything you do.
Yes, but with a perfect memory and at machine speed. And here's why this is so dangerous. It bypasses almost every traditional security measure we have.
How so?
Well, think about encryption. We encrypt data in the database so hackers can't read it. But for the support agent to do their job, that data has to be decrypted and shown on their screen, right?
Of course, I can't read code. I need to see the name.
Exactly. The malware exploits that moment of necessary visibility. The encryption doesn't matter because it's capturing the data after it's been decrypted for the human eye.
That is profoundly unsettling, because that means any data an employee can see is compromised if their one computer is infected.
It captures everything. Financial records, passport scans, live chats. This explains the discrepancy. Under Armour looks at their database logs and sees normal activity. Oh, Bob looked at 50 records today. But they don't see Bob's computer was secretly photographing those records and sending them to Everest.
It fundamentally changes the definition of a breach. The fortress wasn't stormed. The guards were just unknowingly wearing body cameras that were streaming to the enemy.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And it explains why the hackers are so confident. They gave sample data to TechCrunch, who verified it. The hackers are saying, look, we have it. And Under Armour is saying, our logs don't show a theft. Both can be true.
But the victims, the 72 million people, are caught in the crossfire. And of course, where there are 72 million victims, the lawyers aren't far behind.
They certainly are not. There's a class action lawsuit filed in Maryland.
And reading through that complaint, the anger isn't just about the data loss, it's about the silence.
The cover-up, or at least the delay, is often what gets companies in more trouble. The lawsuit alleges negligence, breach of contract, and, crucially, failure to notify.
Failure to notify seems to be the big one here.
It's huge. Remember our timeline.
Yeah.
Breach in November, dump in January. The lawsuit argues that Under Armour had a duty to tell people immediately. If you know your data is stolen today, you can freeze your credit, be on alert.
But if you find out 2 months later,
The damage is already done. The hackers have had an 8-week head start.
the plaintiff is basically saying, you left my front door wide open and didn't tell me for 2 months.
Exactly. And there's another interesting argument in there. Unjust enrichment.
What does that mean in a courtroom?
It's clever. It basically says, when I paid you $50 for these shorts, part of that price was for you to handle my transaction securely. You failed to do that, so you're holding on to money you didn't really earn.
Wow, so security isn't a favor, it's part of the product you paid for.
Exactly. It frames privacy as a feature you purchased.
But let's go back to Under Armour's response. That phrase they used, aware of claims, it feels so dismissive.
It's standard corporate shielding. Aware of claims is non-committal. It buys them time. And then saying it's a very small percentage with sensitive info.
Well, that brings me back to the definition of sensitive. To a lawyer, sensitive probably means a social security number. But to me, my home address where my kids sleep, that feels pretty sensitive.
That is the disconnect. The corporate definition is what makes us liable for massive fines. The human definition is what makes me feel unsafe. Under Armour might be right that only a few lost financial data. But 72 million people lost their privacy.
So let's pivot to the listener. Why should you care? Let's say you haven't bought Under Armour since 2018. You think you're safe.
You are absolutely not safe. This is the part people miss. Data breaches are about credential stuffing.
Credential stuffing. Unpack that for us.
Okay, let's say you use the password RunFast2024 on your Under Armour account. And let's be honest, you probably use that same password for your Netflix, your Spotify, maybe even your bank.
Guilty. I think we all do that. It's impossible to remember 50 different passwords.
And the hackers know that. They have bots that will take these 72 million email and password combos and just try them instantaneously on every major website out there.
So the breach at the sneaker company is actually the key to your bank account.
Correct. The sneaker data is just the starter fluid. The real fire is what happens next. And with purchase history and location, they can run incredibly sophisticated phishing campaigns.
Phishing is when they trick you into clicking a link. Right?
Yeah, but imagine how convincing it is now. Instead of a generic Dear Customer email, you get one that says, Hi, John. There was an issue with the delivery of your gray Heat Gear shirt to 123 Maple Avenue. Click here to reschedule.
Oh, I would click that. That sounds completely real.
Most people would. It uses the stolen data to bypass your natural skepticism.
That is insidious. So let's talk solutions. What can people listening right now do?
Step 1 is immediate triage. Change your passwords. And not just on Under Armour. If you have reused that password anywhere, change it there too, today.
And this is where we have to stop relying on our brains, right?
The human brain is terrible at passwords. You need a password manager. The sources mentioned 1Password, but really any good one-Bitwarden LastPass is essential. It lets you have a unique, impossible-to-guess password for every single site.
So if one site gets breached, the hackers only get a key that opens that one door.
Exactly. You limit the blast radius.
What about two-factor authentication, 2FA?
It is non-negotiable in 2026. You have to enable it everywhere. Because even if a hacker had your password, they still hit a brick wall because they don't have the code from your phone. It stops credential stuffing dead.
The research also mentioned identity theft protection services like Aura or Guardio. Are those worth it?
In a breach of this size, with this richness of data, yeah, they're worth considering, especially if there's any chance passport info is in there. Services like Aura offer active monitoring. You want to know if someone applies for a credit card in your name before the bill shows up.
It's like a smoke detector. You hope it never goes off, but you're crazy not to have one.
Precisely. Because once the data is out there, you can't put it back. You can only defend against how it's used.
So to recap, a massive breach, a standoff between a brand and a ransomware gang, and this terrifying new attack vector using AI screen scraping.
That's the summary. And I think that screen scraping part is what's going to ripple through the industry. It's forcing everyone to rethink how we protect information.
It feels like the rules of the game just changed. We spent 20 years building thicker vault doors, and the hackers just figured out how to stand in the room and take pictures.
They bypassed the door entirely. We focused on the pipe and the vault, but we forgot about the endpoint, the screen. CenturyDay's insight is profound. We are moving into an era where just seeing the data is enough to steal it.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave everyone with. We invest so much trust in these digital systems. We assume encryption is a magic shield, But if AI can now read an employee's screen, pixel by pixel, does encrypting a database actually matter anymore in the way we thought it did?
That is the uncomfortable question. It suggests privacy might not be about mathematics anymore. It might be about visibility. If a human can see it, AI can steal it.
And when a company stands up and says, no sensitive data was lost, but the hackers know what size shirt you wear and exactly where you sleep at night, do we need to redefine what sensitive actually means? Because I have a feeling the legal definition and the creepy definition have drifted very, very far apart.
I think you're right. Context is everything. A pair of shorts isn't sensitive. A pair of shorts, a size, a date, and a home address. That's a life.
And that life is now digital. Stay curious, stay secure, and seriously, go change your passwords. Thanks for diving in with us.
Take care.